And welcome back to the Big Red B. Schneid Show, Maryland Week. As always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I believe I'm sitting right now at 76 subscribers, so getting to 100 by November is possible. Anyway, I'm joined by Sam Ojeda once again to not only give our thoughts about Michigan State after the time is kind of settled, and preview for Maryland. Sam, how you been doing?
Good. I've been busy. There's been a lot going on in the sport world. Class is bogging me down, but surviving. Happy to be on the pod again this week.
Yeah, and we were talking, we gave our instant analysis like we always do after a home game. This weekend, neither of us are going to be able to make a trip out to College Park, so we'll be covering it remotely. But when you look back at the game, and I mean, it's still the same stuff. What was the most interesting thing to me, and you could tell watching the game if you're paying close enough attention, but the 5 sacks Nebraska's offensive line allowed were only charged with 2 of the 5, and those each were on Elijah Pritchett.
Yeah, and I would say when it comes to the offensive line, you have to be. I think a lot of Husker fans are going to disagree with this, but you have to be encouraged. I mean, the offensive line clearly improved. Yeah, both of them are on Pritchett, but Henry Lutovsky even said that they were very stoic with how they went about the week last week, the bye week, and then again this week. And I think you're really seeing that. And I think you're seeing Rhule's willingness to adapt to team needs. I think you're seeing that with them putting Pritchett in a left tackle and moving Gattulo to right tackle. And then I think you're seeing that on defense, which we'll get into later, but you're seeing that on defense with them starting guys like Guthrie and who is escaping me? The big one that was last week. Oh, Dawson Merritt. Like you're seeing that willingness to adapt. And I think that is huge when we're also talking about the offensive line.
You mentioned Rex Guthrie. That dude was kicking ass on Saturday. Getting tackles. We'll touch on more of the defense here in a little bit, but yeah, you mentioned that. But an interesting stat that PFF, and some people don't like PFF. I'm pro PFF. I think it has some interesting stuff. Now, do I think they're perfect? No, but Dylan Raiola, the offensive line gives him on average on his dropbacks over 4 seconds, 4.12 to be exact. That is 12th. I believe it's 11th or 12th among FBS programs. So clearly the offensive line overall is giving him time. Now, don't get me wrong. Against Michigan, he got railed. And then we saw that against Michigan State. And you can also, a guy could argue, well, Houston Christian Akron, he had plenty of time. Well, yeah. But when I look at it, there was a couple charged on Dylan. Dana yesterday said that there was one on Emmett Johnson charged. So you think about where the Nebraska's most lingering issue right now in the offense is. It's the pass protection. And we could talk about it. You mentioned Lutovsky. The dude has been getting pissed, but at the same kind of when people are asking him questions about it, but at the same time, they are partly responsible because going into the year, we kept hearing how this offensive line was going to be a strength and everything. Yet, as a team, Nebraska is averaging under 4 yards per carry. I know Emmett Johnson's above that mark. He's 5.5 yards, and sack numbers skew that. But you can't run the football consistently. And right now, the pass rush is really pivotal. 12 of the 15 sacks have been in the past 2 Big Ten games.
Yeah, and I think the one thing we need to point out is now that Dylan Raiola is in his sophomore season, the honeymoon's over. I think that, the whole 5-star, great quarterback, high ceiling potential, which I have definitely been on that train. I think it's over. The honeymoon phase is over, and it's time to look at Dylan Raiola for the player that he is outside of just his potential. And I think, you do throw in the Houston Christian game and the Akron game, but right now Nebraska, in defense of Dylan Raiola and the offense, has the 8th best passing offense in terms of yards per game in the country, 320.2, and 13th in the country in pass efficiency. So I think that pass efficiency number is really notable to the high caliber play that Dylan is still providing, no matter how long he's holding the ball. Like, yeah, we're obviously getting frustrated, but I think it was Dana who said it, that he made the clutch plays when it mattered. When it mattered and the Huskers had to go win a game, Dylan Raiola stepped up. They put him in some shorter pass sets, some quicker routes. He was able to find Isaiah Hunter for the screen. Like, he was making the plays when it mattered. And I think when it comes to analyzing Raiola as a whole, outside of just his potential, I think you have to be really encouraged.
Overall, I am encouraged with Dylan Raiola this season. I think he's playing through the roof, and I could argue with people that he's he's on that level of Joey Gans, Zach Taylor for a passing quarterback. I totally agree with that. Statistically, he's on pace to break the passing yard record in a season for the Huskers. But at the same time, him holding the ball in the pocket still, and then when he gets flustered, he panics and he's had these throws, and he didn't even against Cincinnati. When people are getting in his face, he just looks first read and throws it about the second or third quarter. And another thing that I haven't really heard too much from the fan base, but I think that it's almost getting a little bit of a problem, is you're seeing that frustration wear and him spiking the ball after a false start and everything. I don't think that's a good look for your team captain right now. Now, I still think Dylan's a phenomenal leader. Don't get me wrong. But I think that is something that if you're a Nebraska fan, you would want addressed after the game.
Yeah, I'd agree. And you can notice that, we're all the way up in the press box and you can see stuff like that. And if we're noticing, I guarantee you the fans much closer to the field are noticing stuff like that. But I think one of the more insightful things this week is how behind Dylan, Dana, and Matt Rule are. They have yet to really get on him for any of the stuff like that. And now I don't know if that's kind of protecting the brand, putting a curtain up, or if that's genuinely how they think. I mean, they've been around football a very, very long time. But one thing about Dylan that I think I'm trying to explain to my friends who don't actually know how to watch Husker football, not saying I'm perfect, but I have more of a general idea, is Dylan Raiola is already playing like an NFL quarterback. Okay. So if you watch the NFL, the read is usually your RPO, like your slot guy or something like that. And then it's, okay, where's my tight end? Right. And then if the tight end's not there, you're either dumping to the running back or you're getting outside the pocket and finding that deep crosser route. He reminds me a lot of Jordan Love, where he's willing to get outside the pocket and find the deep ball, but he won't go deep unless the play is broken down a little bit and he's gone through all of his checks and all of his reads. The other thing NFL quarterbacks do is they take sacks. And I think that is something that Dylan Raiola has shown he's willing to do. And while I may be drinking kind of the Raiola aid, if you want to call it that, I think he's almost too smart and too mature for college football. I think he is thinking beyond the level. Why his athleticism might not be, the peak, maybe his talent isn't fully to the NFL level. His brain has been molded to be an NFL level quarterback ever since he was little.
No, I agree with the most of that, but his maturity, I don't know. I think he's a very mature guy in the aspect of handling himself with the media and then as a football player in itself. But that's why I'm saying when him spiking the ball and stuff after a false start, I think that maturity part is not there yet. And I think that he stepped up as a leader, and he has, but him letting the fan base fluster him and everything, and Rule had to tell him, hey, dude, basically you're making a shitload of money to quarterback for these guys, and they're paying a bunch of money to watch you. So that's kind of comes with it. I'm not here to fully dog on Dylan Raiola. I'm not. And I think that he is performing lights out and has potential to be all conference. I really do. But yeah, it's with the pass protection and everything, it's tough. But I will defend the offensive line and Dylan. Nebraska still can't run the football other than Emmett Johnson. And we know he had 83 yards he had. But other than that, they don't really stick to the run at times. And sometimes I think Dana's calling the game well, but I could go on a tangent about that for an hour, just talking about a lack of another running back that they commit to and say, you're going to have 5 carries in the first quarter.
Yeah.
I'd love to see what happens.
Yeah. I don't trust. I mean, there has been nothing in the game so far that has shown us a backup quarterback. I know you and I kind of jumped on the Quentin Ives train pretty early after that game that he ran for 100 yards or so. but clearly, the people on the coaching staff don't share that same sentiment. We're not seeing much Quentin Ives. We're seeing the Moseys and we're seeing the Mekhi Nelsons. And so the only running back who has even showed us a remote level of potentially being the backup running back is still fourth string on the depth chart. So that's kind of baffling to me, just because we haven't really seen much. I think Mosey got a couple carries last week. One did break for a first down, so that was good to see.
Three carries for 9 yards. Mekhi Nelson had 1 for 11.
Yeah, okay, so it was the Mekhi Nelson run that broke for a first down. But still, until they get more sample size, we just don't have an answer, and it's going to have to be Emmett Johnson. But Emmett Johnson really hasn't been convincing me that he's an elite running back either. I was super high on him. I remember in the forum, I put a bold take on that he has the potential to potentially have an Amir Abdullah type season, and since that, he has completely fallen off the map. I
wouldn't say completely fallen off the map. He's still producing. I know Michigan second half he kind of struggled, but he's still getting around 70 plus yards per game.
Yeah,
he had 130. Well, yeah, he had 100 all-purpose. We had over 120 all-purpose yards against. He had 130 all-purpose yards against, or 120 all-purpose yards against Michigan State. He was the number one pass catcher and, of course, carrier.
Yeah, and I am unfortunately comparing himself to the buzz that was surrounding him prior to the season. I think compared to, guaranteed 1,000-yard rusher, all of this are like, could he be an 1,000-yard rusher? He's got the potential. He could be, but if he runs like he has the last 2 games versus the rest of the season, he's not getting there. Truly, I just don't.
Wait. What do you mean? He had 13 carries for 83 yards against Michigan State.
Yeah, but like you said, he's only around 5 yards per carry, which is great.
He's 6.4. I'm saying it's great. I think Emmett's doing phenomenal. I really do. Emmett Johnson is not Amir Abdullah. Amir Abdullah was a home run hitting running back. He'd hit the hole, get there, and he'd bust off a 50, 60-yarder nearly every week. Emmett Johnson's more of that guy. Now, the one thing I don't like about Emmett Johnson is sometimes he stops his feet and doesn't just pick a lane and go. That's the only thing. But he is still an elusive back. But right now, I'd say I'm more confident in Emmett Johnson getting 100 yards against not this week. Never mind. But he, all-purpose wise, I'd say he's Nebraska's offensive MVP right now. Now, Dylan's all around, but all-purpose yardage, rushing or receiving, I'd give it to Emmett Johnson.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd give it to Emmett too. But I think anybody would hand it to Raiola. But if you had to look at someone besides Dylan Raiola, it's got to be Ja'Cory Barney, but that's a lot of it's special teams. Most underrated player, and it's crazy to say, the most underrated player is definitely Isaiah Hunter. He is clearly the most talented, not talented receiver, but he's definitely the most underrated talent that we have on the offense. But yeah, I'd agree. I'd give it to Emmett too, but maybe that's us going back to the offense isn't that explosive. They're just methodical. They're not explosive. They're just methodical.
Well, the trouble that we're running into right now is you have these samples of Houston Christian and Akron. Kick the shit out of them, as Nebraska should have. But then you're seeing some things offensively that aren't gelling well. And Nebraska still scored 38 points and 27 the week before. And there are some offensive issues that just don't seem to fit the Big Ten. You look at Nebraska. Let's look at Maryland. Maryland's rushing defense allows under 100 yards per game. They allow 2.63 yards per carry as a defense. Nebraska's rushing offense averages 93 yards per game. So you're looking at this week, I think Emmett Johnson needs to have 60 yards rushing by halftime to really set the tone, get Maryland on their heels. That'll open up more of the passing game, keep the team defense honest. Because what's my biggest concern heading into this game is Maryland is leading the Big Ten and sitting fourth in the nation in the amount of sacks they've had, 19 on the season. And their leaders are both true freshmen. Sidney Stewart and Zahir Mathis.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at Maryland, now that we're kind of shifting in that direction, I have not given my official prediction yet, but it would not surprise me if Nebraska really struggles on offense in this game. Like you said, we give up a ton of sacks, and they sack the quarterback a ton, right? We struggle to run the ball, and they have a well above average run defense. Not to mention that this game is going to be won on first down because both of these teams are top. I have it here. Are top 15 in the country on third down, defensively. Maryland's 13th, Nebraska is 4th, right? And majority of the time, correct me if I'm wrong, Bobby, you're running on first down. And so if Nebraska cannot establish the run or cannot protect the quarterback or, get rid of the ball, we already went down this road.
Yeah.
Nebraska's really going to struggle on offense. And I think we may not see as much of the disgrace as we saw in the second quarter against Michigan State, but they're going to struggle and the defense is going to have to bail them out.
Well, and another thing, so you don't really worry about this as much if you're a Husker fan, just based off the data that we have. Maryland's also leading the Big Ten with 9 interceptions. And that kind of has to do with the pass pressure or their rigging in the backfield. But you think about that. If Nebraska gets into a game where they can't run the football, they can't pass protect, Maryland has ball hawks. I know on paper, Nebraska matches up overall well. And we're going to touch on the Maryland's offense here soon and against the Blackshirts. But those are 3 phases, and then you tie in the red zone woes. I know Nebraska did, I don't want to go too far off to the side, but that play where they wildcatted Harburg, nice play. It was something different, and look what happened. You scored a touchdown.
Yeah, I would agree, and I don't know if you would say who's better, Nebraska or Washington. I think you'd probably lean Nebraska's way.
Yeah, a little bit above team? Washington. I agree.
And so we're going to be the best team Maryland has played yet this season. They had Washington on the ropes. They really did. And then whatever the heck happened in the fourth quarter that gave Washington that game. And I think if you are a Husker fan looking at this game, I think that's the most encouraging thing is they haven't necessarily, outside of Washington, the best team Maryland's played is probably Florida Atlantic, and they're not even all that good. Wisconsin, but I more just want to throw a shade at Wisconsin there.
Yeah,
they played Wisconsin, and even I know they won 27-10, but even against Wisconsin, they struggled on offense. And I know we're going to talk about the offense here in a second, but I think if you're a Husker fan looking at this game, you're encouraged that we will be the best team Maryland has played all season. If you look at their schedule and the results so far.
Yeah, before we go to the offense, I want to point out something that I put in my grades report after the game. Nebraska doesn't beat Michigan State if it wasn't for special teams. Mm-hmm. The amount of game-changing plays Mike Eckler's unit has done this year is incredible. Who would have thought this time last year that Nebraska would be amongst the best in the nation in multiple special teams categories? They're returning punts. They're getting after punters. Michigan State had the number 1 ranked punter in the nation in net punting. Jacory was running it back. I know wind played a factor, but you're getting after, you're blocking it. You're making plays to take away their strengths. They weren't allowing Amari Kelly to get around with returning punts. Incredible. I can't stress it. I don't know. I did that kind of whatever, but
anyway. Here's Bobby. I agree, and I was going to bring this up later when it comes to my prediction, so I'll just hit on it barely. But Nebraska last year at this time versus Nebraska this year is night and day difference, specifically on special teams. So I'm not really sure what this stat is. It's called SP plus. I want to assume that's like a plus minus on special teams. I don't know if you know, but so last year Nebraska in SP plus was 115th in the country at negative 1.8. So I'm going to assume it's a plus minus, negative 1.8. And then this year, at this point, they're 32nd in the country at positive 1.2. And special teams is just one of many spots where Nebraska is a way better team this year than they were last year. And I think that Eckler coming in, I got to write that article from his press conference during camp when we were pumping out all those articles for Husker Online. He was fired up. And clearly you can see now it wasn't fake. Like, this special teams is for real. We're making kicks. We're returning punts. For the most part, we're avoiding penalties outside of the Carter Nelson block in the back that brought back the touchdown. And then the block punt. I mean, like you said, game-changing plays. And in hindsight, yeah, you're probably right. That is the reason they beat Michigan State.
Yeah, well, that, and then I thought the defense played pretty damn well. Aiden Childs, Matt Rule said he's an NFL quarterback on Monday. I've debated both sides. People saying he wasn't solid. I know he was going up against the number one ranked secondary in the nation in regards to passing yards allowed. So you weren't expecting him on a 40 mile an hour wind gust day for him to go out there and torch the number one ranked passing defense. But what we didn't expect is the Blackshirts to stuff the run the way they did.
Mm-hmm.
They held Michigan State to 84 yards on the ground. A huge improvement from the bye week. Huge.
Yeah, and I would say the tackling was improved. I think that was last week. Everyone was dogging on Nebraska's tackling, and rightfully so. It was awful.
I was one of them.
Yeah, it was awful. And now, for some reason, the tackling was good last week, and no one's really talking about how the tackling is improved. Now, I get it. That's kind of the expectation. It's kind of the expectation that you tackle the guy carrying the football. But we got to give credit to the linebacker room and the safeties and the D tackles. I mean, they tackled Aiden Childs. Now, I know he had that kind of third quarter burst or second quarter burst when he kind of just had a 4-yard QB sneak that was ridiculous and all this. But for the most part, they brought down a large quarterback. He is not an easy quarterback to bring down, and they handled him very well. And I think going into this week, it's going to be more of a similar story with you've got this large quarterback who is a pocket passer and willing to scramble. And I was overall encouraged. And yeah, I think the secondary has cemented themselves as an elite level secondary. The fact that you're like guys like Donovan Jones and Rex Guthrie, guys that we weren't necessarily, raising positive alarms about in the offseason, they're looking like they would start on pretty much any Big Ten defense. And that's really saying something, especially Donovan Jones. That kid is special. And their pass efficiency on defense, first in the country. Their third down defense, fourth in the country. Their rush defense hopped from 113th in the country to 88th in the country. So that is huge for Nebraska. If we can just slowly dwindle down that number, I think you're looking at possibly the best defense in the Big Ten. Possibly. Keyword, possibly.
I couldn't put them over Ohio State or Oregon, even near them. Michigan.
But look at the passers they're taking on, right? Like Brennan Sorsby, elite.
Yes, but I can't. They have a solid defense. We'll wait and see if Nebraska has one of those games like Indiana last year. Mm-hmm. I need to get more of a sample size. Yeah. We'll know some more after this weekend because when we talk about Maryland, they can't really run the football. They can't run worth a shit, actually, if we're going to be honest. They are, So I had an error when I was looking at my reference sheet. Nebraska's averaging 130 rushing yards per game, but Maryland's averaging under 100 yards per game. And all their ball carriers or top three tailbacks only average 3.5 yards per carry. But on the other hand, their true freshman quarterback, Malik Washington, over 1,200 yards passing, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He has 2 wideouts, Octavian Smith and Shalik Knotts, each with over 300 receiving yards. And then Jaleel Farouk, he has over 200. And their tight end, Dorian Fleming, is just under 200 receiving yards. He's got some pass catchers. John Butler said it yesterday, and he's absolutely right. This is going to be the largest test Nebraska's secondary has faced to date.
Yeah, and he's not wrong. Malik Washington's very talented. He is very similar to Aiden Childs in the fact that maybe Aiden Childs you consider more of a dual threat, even though he considers himself a pocket passer. But Malik Washington can sling it. Clearly. I mean, he's shown that. He averages 256 yards per game through the air. And he is efficient. I mean, he's basically got almost a 5-to-1 touchdown to turnover rate, which is pretty awesome for a sophomore quarterback, right?
True freshman.
Okay. I was getting him and Childs is a junior, but true freshman quarterback, right? 5-star, right? So if you look at deeper into the numbers, and I think this is kind of where he's exposed, right? Great wide receivers, for Maryland. No offense to Maryland. He's only got a 59% completion percentage, which is outside the top 100 in college football. And after seeing what Nebraska did to a junior, Aiden Childs, last week, keeping him under 50%, I think you're looking at another under 50% game for a quarterback who has, if I remember correctly, 7% less completion percentage. So I think will Nebraska have to show up and really fight the test of Maryland's pass game? Absolutely. Do I see it necessarily being a critical threat? No.
I think Maryland's going to try to establish somewhat of a run game on the offensive side, especially with Nebraska's ability to defend the pass. Give a shout out to Deshaun Singleton, Player of the Week in the Big Ten. John Butler actually had a joke about that yesterday, saying I've never seen two easier interceptions in my life. But when you look at this game, you really like where the Blackshirts match up. Mm-hmm. I do not like how the offense matches up. Now, I like Nebraska's special teams, and this is some people have penciled this as a win early. I could see Nebraska taking an L this week.
Yeah,
now we'll see. But that's why I want to know, what are you thinking that's going to happen on Saturday?
All right. So there is some deep analysis into this, and it's very statistical. I'll preface now. I think Nebraska's going to win the football game. At this point last year, I would say if we were playing Maryland, like this same Maryland team last year, people are still chalking this up as a win. I think overall people are saying Nebraska is going to win. Listen to the difference between last year Nebraska and this year Nebraska. Scoring offense is now 14th compared to 103rd. Completion percentage, 2nd compared to 15th. Scoring defense, 7th next to 7th compared to 17th. Passing yards allowed, 1st compared to 64th. Like, this team is substantially better than last year's team, and I don't think anyone's arguing that. And I think most people would be picking Nebraska in 2024 to beat this year's Maryland team. While I think this game is going to be close, and I think it's going to be low scoring because I think Nebraska is going to struggle to get the offense going on the road early, Nebraska will win the game because of that logic. But I'm going to put it at 20-13. Nebraska wins the game.
So Sam's got Nebraska covering. I believe this last I saw was the spread was at 6.5 favoring the Huskers. Well, when I think about this game, I think that Nebraska is going to be trying to get Emmett Johnson going quick, especially on the road. I know Maryland has a good rushing defense, but they're going to try to set the tone. At least I think that's what a wise offensive coordinator would do that. And I'm saying Dana is. He's more than wise. So I think that's what Dana would want to establish there. But I do think that Dylan plays better than he did the week prior. And I think that he has over 230 passing yards. I think that lifts the Huskers. I think the defense makes some critical plays in the secondary, an interception or two. I think with this pass rush that's come out of nowhere pretty much the past week I shouldn't say out of nowhere, but Williams Winery, Deshaun McCullough are really finding the groove, getting in the backfield. And then you even seen Elijah Judy, Cameron Lenhart also find that. So I think that is critical. And I think special teams, once again, is the deciphering factor. So I got the Huskers close. Maryland covers. Give me Nebraska 31, Maryland 27.
High scoring.
I do got another high scoring game. I think Nebraska's bound to turn the ball over in their side of the field, and Maryland get a short field, get a quick score there. And then the defense, I think they play solid, but at the same time, Maryland makes some plays. And so if you're a Nebraska fan and you walk away with the win there, I think you got to feel great about yourself. Yeah. This is where normally Nebraska breaks down, is when they go on the road. Last year when they went to Indiana, got destroyed.
Thrashed.
So this time last year. So I'm intrigued. But I also this is probably one of the more intriguing games I'm going to watch of Nebraska football in a while, just because I want to see how they really respond after coming off a game where they normally would have lost in previous years. They find a way to win. They struggle in some key areas. I want to see how they adjust against a attacking defense, ferocious defense, as Dana Holgerson and Dylan Raiola said. But anyway, Sam, let's get to weekly predictions. I was off on the Vanderbilt one. I'll bite that bullet.
Way off.
Yeah, but upsets. Who would have thought that UCLA would knock off Penn State? Florida wasn't as of a surprise knocking off Texas, but that's still an upset. Yeah, they got talent, exactly. But first game I want you to pick: Illinois, Ohio State, big noon kickoff.
Yeah, Ohio State, in my opinion, is by far the best team in the country. Their defense, man, they are legit on defense. They have insane talent. Julian Sayin is a very, very good quarterback. I don't know if Ohio State loses a game until the conference championship. They are really good. Luke Altmaier, very good quarterback. He's got almost 1,600 yards. He's got 12 touchdowns. If Illinois wins this game, they have to score 40. If they win this game, they will score 40 points because they've shown they can do it. I mean, they destroyed Indiana. Or Indiana destroyed them. Yeah, sorry. Got that flipped around. But yeah, if they're going to win, it's going to take Luke Altmaier leading this team to 40 points. I don't see it happening. Give me an Ohio State blowout.
Yeah, Ohio State's 14.5-point favorite. I expect Ohio State to cover. 3 touchdown win. Next one, Alabama, Missouri, top 15 matchup at Columbia. Alabama's 2.5-point favorite. Roll Tide.
Yeah, I'm taking Missouri. I'm sorry. I love Missouri's run game. Their running back Hardy is averaging just around 7 yards per carry. He's got 9 touchdowns already in this young season, 5 games in now. This Alabama team, they're very good. They have a lot of talent like Alabama always does, but I'm sorry. I know this sounds stupid, and Kalen DeBoer is not Nick Saban. Nick Saban would go in and win all the big games. Kalen DeBoer, they're not the same coach. It's not the same program. They are way more prone to upsets. Give me Missouri's run game to upset Alabama in a low-scoring game.
I put Mizzou at 6-0 and definitely bump them in the top 10. Next one, Red River rivalry. Kind of disappointed that game is during Nebraska's. While I'm trying to watch Nebraska's game, I'm going to have to be keeping attention to that because I always love watching that. Texas is unranked. Who are you feeling in this one? Oklahoma's 6th, but we both know that Texas is a talented football team.
Yeah. Until Arch Manning shows that he can do something, at least consistently, can consistently do something, you've got to take Oklahoma, right? No.
I got Texas. I got Texas. Texas gets it done. They don't have John Mateer. Arch Manning bounces back, starts to revive the season. Texas still might wind up in the playoff. I can't stand Texas. Horns down, but
yeah, me too.
I'm going with them.
You'll never see me pick Texas ever.
Last pick'em game I want to go over is one that is it's also during the Nebraska game, but Indiana, number 7 versus number 3 Oregon and Eugene. Oregon's 7.5-point favorite. But does Signetti keep this going?
Yeah, I don't know. I wish I had a better answer for you. Fernando Mendoza, he's very good. He is a very good quarterback. 16-1 touchdown to interception, and he has not played bad. Like, they're not playing horrible teams. Illinois is a good team. 1,200 yards through the air. It's a very systematic offense. It is a slow offense that can score a lot of points. Oregon's defense, like you mentioned earlier in the show, is very good. Dante Moore is, he's going to walk away with the Heisman, I think, by the time he's done playing college football. I mean, he is a incredible quarterback. I think based off the fact that this game is in Eugene, and Oregon is coming off a bye week after a huge double overtime win versus now out of the top 25 Penn State. Give me Oregon. I need to look at the spread really fast. Give me Oregon, and I will take them. They will not cover. It's going to be a 6-point Oregon win.
I got Oregon taking down Indiana.
I want Indiana to win, though.
45 to 38. High scoring thriller. I think that'll be a game that people are going to be, man, that was maybe one of the games of the year. Now, Oregon might roll them as well. And I think the Ducks get it done. But Indiana, I'm not betting against Kurt Signetti when it comes to certain things anymore. He finds a way for his teams to show up in games. And I know they got kind of rolled by Ohio State last year and they got rolled by Notre Dame in the playoffs. But I'm on the Signetti train and belief of the Hoosiers, which is a crazy statement to make. Who would have thought that Indiana would ever be in the top 10 in football? But anyway, guys, would appreciate you all for giving us a listen. Be sure once again to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Follow Sam on Twitter and me as well. For Sam Ojeda, I'm Bobby Schneider signing off.